I come at this from a family perspective. I have a cousin here, Sam Bonasso, who was good friends with my grandfather. And my grandfather's saying was, do good things and forget about it. And that's the way he lived his life, and that's the way he encouraged us to live our lives. My father taught me the true test of a civilization is how we treat people in the dawn of life, the children, how we treat people in the twilight of life, the seniors, and how we treat people in the shadows of life, the ill and infirm, the disabled, the disconnected. And that's the way my father lived his life, always trying to serve those people. And then, of course, many of you knew my mother. Her life, she lived with the theory of love everybody and help everybody. And so that's how I became the product I became with that kind of upbringing. I'm just so excited to have all of you here, and David has led a committee that has produced a successful event and successful outcome for us in many ways, and we're really pleased to have everybody involved. We drove to Charleston in the middle of January, as it turned out, into a fairly significant storm to file for office. And one of the very first things that happened when I went in to file for office was a young man greeted me, very excited that I was arriving. As it turned out, he was an intern of mine 16 years earlier. And his name is Senator Ryan Weld. So here was one of my interns, a young person I had invested time and effort into, who has worked through the process and is a senator himself now. And the Senate leadership greeted us, and we filed for office. And the whole time, I kept sharing with Gretchen and Chase, our campaign treasurer, how concerned I was with the weather here in Morgantown. And the storm was getting worse. I was concerned about school. Would they have school the next day? I wonder what kind of coordination was occurring. I was so frustrated with the collapse of the treatment of our infrastructure and our roads since I had left office. And many of you remember just a few years ago some of those horrible nights where there was no coordination and our town was shut down. And I was really worried about that, hopeful that maybe this time they would get it right. You know, we filed for office, we attended the functions. Chase even decided to drive home, and we weren't going anywhere. We were going to wait this one out. And just for the heck of it, Gretchen said, I wonder what Senator Beach is doing today. I wonder if he's involved in any of the concerns back home that you're all worried about. And we pulled up his Facebook, and sure enough, we found that he was posting a picture of a new Keurig machine in his office at the state capitol. And it was at that moment that I realized I had made the right decision to run for office, because I felt like the priorities that I had were what were important to the people in this community. And it just really reinforced my decision to run. I want to spend just 20 seconds on Senator Beach just to share some information. He's been in the legislature now for 18 years. He's chaired the Senate Transportation Committee. He's been a member of the Blue Ribbon Transportation Task Force. He sponsored legislation that created the Transportation Oversight Authority. Yet we have had the worst roads in Monongalia and Marion County, bar none, statewide. And when I came into this race, and citizens like you and others began to raise issues about the quality of our roads, the inability for ambulances and fire trucks to traverse our roads, his response was, let's have an audit. And my thought was, you've been in office 18 years and you don't know how the money's being spent and where the dollars are going and the priorities. Brian was there 2 years. Brian Kerchaba was there 2 years, and he knows that. So that was a concern of mine. Another concern of mine was in the past 4 years, Senator Beach has sponsored 41 pieces of legislation as the lead sponsor. 41 pieces of legislation. Of those, 2 bills have become law. 2 out of 41. If you were a baseball coach and somebody was batting less than 5%, would you keep them in the lineup? Would you keep them on the team? And those are some things I just share for you, because people are going to come up to you, they're going to ask you questions. That gives you a little bit of feedback. But really, enough about that. I think I've heard my whole life that there's 2 kinds of West Virginians. There are West Virginians by birth, and there are West Virginians by choice. I like to say there's a third kind of West Virginian. There's a West Virginian by birth, and a West Virginian who chooses to stay in West Virginia by choice. And that's me, and that's many of you here as well. And we choose to be here, we know the challenges that exist, and we work hard to make life better for others, to make it possible to grow a business and raise a family. And I'm one of those people, and I know many of you in this room are too, and that's what we're committed to doing with this campaign. I feel like, and part of what motivated me to get back into public service is I feel like our little state is in trouble. I really feel like we have some enormous challenges right now. In the last 50 years in America, West Virginia is the only state that has not grown in population. West Virginia is the only state in the country that has more people dying than being born. And West Virginia has the lowest job participation rate of any state in the country. That means the percentage of adults in the workforce, the lowest in the country. And we've got to turn those things around. And the biggest priority of our campaign is to diversify our economy. We have to do that. Our traditional industries, whether it be coal and gas and timber, can continue to be a major part of our economy. In fact, the opportunities that exist for natural gas are limitless based on our state's location, our proximity to other markets, and the quality of the natural gas and the ethane and other products with that. We have tremendous opportunities that we as a state need to seize upon so that we can meet the needs of our citizens. But we need the jobs of the future, and that's our challenge. Both in healthcare and throughout other fields, we have to commit ourselves to positioning our economy with policies that will attract those jobs. And one of the things I like to talk to folks about is when we came out of the Great Depression, Charleston, West Virginia, and Charlotte, North Carolina had the same population. And the policies pursued in West Virginia and in Charleston took Charleston to a point where there are 49,000 people today, and it took Charlotte, North Carolina to a point where there are 840,000 people, with beltways around beltways. And I say that to tell you that who we elect to public office matters. The decisions that they make, the policies that they set, the rules and regulations, those things matter, and there are clear outcomes when they're done wrong. And we have some courageous people in the legislature right now who are trying to do some of the things right. And I think they need our help and they need support. And I'm willing to get down there and try and help them. And that's why your help today is so important to us. We need to improve our public education system. We have dedicated, hardworking teachers in West Virginia. We need to provide them the support, and we need to help them be successful in the classroom. We saw some revelations today of the challenges that our teachers are facing with respect to the high absenteeism across the state. And we need to do more to encourage children to be in those classrooms and incentivize and put pressure on parents to make those children get to those classrooms. So there's much we can do in public education, and there's a lot of models around the country to look at. We need to improve higher education. I don't know if you noticed my necktie today. My necktie is maroon for Fairmont State and blue and gold for WVU. I am an advocate for higher education in this region, more so than anybody has ever been, and I have fought for these two institutions, and if given an opportunity to serve, I will do that again. I think they're so important to our economy, and it's what gives us the opportunity to grow, is by educating these young people. We also need to support our technical and community colleges because, as Sam always tells me, that's where all the jobs are. And we want people to go to college, but we also recognize there are so many jobs if people can develop specialized skills. One of the things that we have to do is we have to increase our state's revenues because we are not being able to fund vital services. When I left office, as I was leaving office, we had a horrible Division of Highways building over in Saberton. I was able to get Division of Highways into a new facility, and we had 55 people working. Today there are 17 people working at the Division of Highways. When I was in office, we had a horrible state police barracks in Star City. It leaked, there was mold on the floor and on the walls. We got that destroyed, and we got a new state police barracks built. And when I left office, we had 24 state troopers working in Star City. Today there are 9. Our state is in desperate need of revenues to return those kinds of numbers where they belong. We can't maintain our roads, we can't maintain our public safety, and all of the other services of government. And so I want state government to become more entrepreneurial. I want state government to focus on how we as a state can make money, not tax the citizens in this state further. Our citizens are 49th or 50th in per capita income. We can't afford to put additional taxes on those folks. I've talked about doing some simple things like Camp Dawson over in Preston County. I've talked about us drilling for natural gas on the Camp Dawson grounds. You know, the Pittsburgh Airport today is surviving. It is thriving because the Pittsburgh Airport has 18 wells around the site of the airport. And it's creating a stream of revenue that's making it possible for it to support and grow the airport. And those are the kinds of things we need to do. I said to the Dominion Post editorial board that I thought we needed a drill for natural gas at Camp Dawson. The next day, Bob Beach said I proposed drilling for natural gas at state parks. I don't know if he thought Camp Dawson was a campground, but it's not. It's a pretty important facility. And I think that's something you learn serving in the military. It's not a campground. And I think we have to look for ways to be more entrepreneurial as a state. Some people want to increase the severance taxes on all the items that we sever, whether it's gas or coal or timber. You have to be very careful doing that because it disincentivizes companies to go after those natural resources in your state. We have far more natural gas than Ohio and Pennsylvania, yet their production exceeds ours. I think West Virginia ought to be in a position to use some of our state lands in places that are remote to be able to drill for natural gas ourselves. Wouldn't it be great if the state of West Virginia could put out bids and receive the most attractive lease payment, the state getting the whole lease payment, the state getting the whole royalty payment, instead of the state getting a little extra of the severance tax on somebody else doing it? We can use our lands and we can develop our natural resources in a proper and safe and responsible way. Our hardwoods in West Virginia are among the most valuable in the world. And the hardwood growth in West Virginia is such right now that it's growing at 2.5 times the rate that we are harvesting it. I'm not suggesting that we increase our timber production by 2.5 times, but I am suggesting that it's pretty well documented there are opportunities for us to increase that production. And then more so, we need the downstream jobs that come with that production, that in the past we've allowed that lumber to be hauled out of the state, that timber to go away and those jobs to go with it. We need those jobs in West Virginia. So those are some of the kinds of things that I think we need to do. Another thing I think we need to do is we need to attract young people to West Virginia. We've got some wonderful young people here, and I'm so glad they've taken the time to come out. Many of them are helping on the campaign. Sarah is actually our intern this semester, and she's doing a great job for us. But we need more young people in West Virginia. The state that is 50th in the country in population growth needs more young people. We need to create incentives, programs, opportunities, internships, mentorships, anything we can do to attract young people. And we need all kinds of young people. We need college-educated young people, and we need folks in trades. We need desperately healthcare young people to come in and work in our hospitals and take care of many of us as we get older. So that will be one of my challenges, is how can we get more young people into West Virginia? We want them to be West Virginians by choice. We want this to be a viable choice for them to choose from other places in the country where they could live. And we can do that with the tourism opportunities and entertainment and other things to make this state viable to them. So, you know, we have big issues to solve. We've got PEIA, we've got opioid crisis, we have big challenges to deal with. But we can do that, we can do it working together. One of the people I want to work with is Joe Statler. Joe, if you'll stand for a second. Everybody give Joe a welcome. Joe has served us on the county school board in a variety of capacities throughout the western end of the county, and now is serving us as a member of the House of Delegates. And I really hope you all will consider voting for Joe as well. He'll be a great partner for me if we get this opportunity to serve. And like I say, there are others like Joe that are courageous, that are trying to do the right thing, and that need our support. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody's having a good time. Gretchen's in charge of ordering more wings as they're needed. And for me, it's just a tremendous pleasure to see so many of you here and supporting our effort. Thank you all for being here, and hope everybody will have more to eat, stay, and enjoy yourself tonight. Thank you.